Though with the new rules this summer of being able to spend some time with your players, but I just overall familiarity with everything.
Part of getting to that next level, Coach, is getting everybody confident on the same page. Do you feel like your team is making the move in that direction?
We are. It's a team of unknowns. Just a little less than half of our football team will be new this year, and they haven't gone through the rigors of a SEC football season, the natural adversities that the football season presents from time management, being a student athlete. So it's going to be how fast can we jump that learning curve.
You talk about the new guys, and there's been a lot made about the quarterback situation, but it seems like the offensive line situation may have been overlooked a little bit when you're replacing so much. Is that at least as much of a key as the quarterback?
Well, it is. It's a great challenge. We're the only team in the country who not only has to replace their entire offensive line, but the defensive line as well. And as we all know, it's a line of scrimmage league. The games are one up front. But, that's what makes college football exciting is about a third of, each roster turns over with graduation. It lends itself to new opportunities for everyone. And, all five of those individuals have to come together, and it's new opportunities for them, but it's the overall depth, and it's going to be a great challenge for us.
How much of a difference can a healthy Kurt Magid make?
Make a huge difference, not only just on the field with his overall production, his tenacity, the way he plays the game, but in the locker room as well from a leadership standpoint.
Rich, Mac hasn't been a full-time starter. What was your thought process in deciding to bring him to media days?
Well, Mac has earned the right, and everything is about leadership, and he's been the individual who's really been consistent all year, and I've been consistent since the day we came in, and he's the leader of that offensive line, so he earned the right to be here today.
Do you feel like you might be able to keep some of those guys that don't have experience kind of naive long enough to not realize they might struggle a little?
Well, the great thing about, is the influx of talent. They're youthful, but they're very, very hungry, and they're very, very driven. So, we've had a great offseason. Our players have done a great job. We excelled in the classroom, having 32 new signees, and it looks like right now there's a great chance that all 32 will be academically qualified. We're just waiting on one, and Chris Weathered, and we'll know that here in the next couple weeks. So having the 14 individuals present for spring ball helped us as well.
Butch, would you have hoped going into your second season, having a definitive starter at quarterback?
Well, I'm excited about all three individuals. There's no need to rush. I think all three have taken monumental steps in moving forward. I think so much has been made of the quarterback position, and quite frankly, we didn't help them last year. They had to play perfect. You look at big splash plays, the catch radius. We've really improved. We've made ourselves better on the perimeter, overall team speed, and I think that in itself is going to lend itself to playing winning football at the quarterback position.
Do you feel like the competitive spirit of this team has grown due to these 32 signees just because, they are hungry, as you say?
Absolutely. The overall competitive spirit, has been twofold in the weight room, in our strength and conditioning, and the conditioning levels, them competing against themselves. You look at our strength numbers, last year at this time we had 0 players who could squat over 600 pounds. Now we're up to 9. That's progress, but now we have to translate that into football strength on the field as well.
Given the recruiting momentum of the last couple of years you've built, how much would a bowl game mean for this program this year?
Well, everything is about a bowl game, and getting back to that. And, it's hard to believe that there isn't an individual in Tennessee football's football program right now from a player standpoint that has participated in a bowl game. And so that's one step that we have to work to get back. But for this football team, it's the power of one moment at a time, one day at a time, one snap at a time, one practice at a time, and we just have to continue to progress, put our head down, and get better week in and week out.
Coach, you have mentioned with the challenge of the new line, you've got some running backs that you've recruited. You've got great people on the perimeter. What kind of challenges with the quarterback, the line, getting the football to the playmakers?
Well, that's going to be a story in and of itself, and we have to do a great job of coaches is really playing to the strengths of our offensive line. We have to be able to move the pocket. We're going to have to be able to create plays out on the perimeter of the defense, and do a great job of mixing their run with the play action up as well.
Butch, what do you like about coaching a team of unknowns?
I like it, because they sit there, they're eager, they listen to every word you say. They have no preconceived notions on anything. They just want more. You know, they want to learn. They're hungry. And our older players have done a great job of really mentoring our younger players in terms of the standard, the expectations now that are set forth in our football program. So I like coaching a team like that, you know, and I think, you know, that's why we just have to focus one day at a time.
You mentioned on signing day that you like the mental makeup of what you signed after you've been around them essentially now, some of them for 6 months and some
Right.
for 6 or 8 weeks. Do you feel better about their mental makeup?
I
About
do.
what you thought? I mean, what do you think you have there?
I feel as good as I did on signing date, and even from a genetic standpoint, we have individuals, you know, freshmen that have, you know, came to campus in June and they've already put 20, 25 pounds on, really improve their strength, you know, their speed, and everything is about improving our overall team speed. You know, that was evident last year on the special teams game. I think that's where it really shows you is your overall team speed. You know, we have to get faster, we have to get bigger in all three phases, offense, defense, special teams. But again, just their drive to be the best. We want individuals who come to the University of Tennessee that seek a degree and want to play on Sundays and are driven to be the best that they can possibly be to reach their fullest potential. And they're pushing each other, they're pushing our older players, and our older players are pushing them as well.
But you said back in spring that for those new guys on the defensive line that, you know, your message to them was that they needed to be ready. Have you seen this summer, from the limited amount you've been able to see them, have you seen a sense of urgency?
I do, but you know, it gets back to the question a little bit of, you know, naive at times, and sometimes I look at them, I say, you don't know that unconscious incompetence, so to speak, but they're going to find out once August 1st hits around. And our older players, again, have done a great job of really mentoring what it's like, but are they going to be able to stay in our 3 technique and have the power ran at them 3 plays in a row and have to work off the double team, you know, and all those little things. And it's going to be an extremely competitive training camp. But again, I like our team chemistry. I think this team is extremely, extremely close. They hang out, they study film, they do the extra. I come in off a vacation, and it's 7 o'clock at night, and our indoor is filled with them practicing on their own. And to me, that shows me a lot of where our program is and the individuals that comprise our football program
Butch,
right now.
AJ has the accolades, the number of tackles. Have you seen a different hunger or want or drive in him, knowing that this is kind of his last chance to leave as a winner and kind of cement his legacy a little bit different than it's been here the first 3 years?
Well, AJ always has the drive. He always has, you know, the work ethic, but I see a sense of urgency in him in terms of a sense of urgency that he's putting on others around him as well. You know, he's learning how to lead, and him and Kurt feed off of each other, but he's now holding others accountable for their actions. And so you can see that growth and that maturation process in terms of leadership really come through with AJ.
How important is it that maybe one of your best players does not only, you know, does it on the field, but does that kind of off the field work as well for you?
Well, it's critical because he has on the field credibility. He's a great football player. He has great instincts to get to the football. He brings it every single day. You know, A.J. Johnson doesn't have bad practices. All you do is roll the footballs out there, and he's ready to play football. Now the next evolution of his game is what we just spoke about, is becoming a leader, being a voice, holding the other 10 individuals on the grass. At the same time, understand that we all represent the University of Tennessee, and he's done a great job of that to date.
Butch, from a program culture standpoint, where do you see the biggest differences this day in the middle of July versus a year ago at this time?
I think just the overall work capacity, the work volume, the togetherness. You know, this football team hangs out together all the time. You know, I walk in the weight room the other day and there's Albert Hainsworth holding court. You know, and our defensive linemen are listening. You know, to me, that's growth and maturation of a football program. You know, you have Jason Witten coming back and wanting to spend time, you know, with your football team. You have Peyton Manning, you have Eric Berry, you have all these great players wanting to be around these players because they can sense something special. Again, they're very youthful. You know, they're going to go through that learning curve again, but again, they want to get better. They want to have the onus on them of getting Tennessee football back.
Is it a more coachable team when you have the veterans that have been in your program for over a year now and then so many newcomers that don't know any other way?
Well, it is, but, you know, we've always had the philosophy everywhere we've been that it's better to be a player-coach team than a coach-coach team. And, you know, when the players get to each other and coach each other, that's rewarding. And that's the great football teams, they run on their own gas. You know, they push each other. They hold each other accountable. It says a lot more if A.J. Johnson gets on somebody of not pursuing or triggering to the football than Butch Jones or John Jancic. And that's what we're developing. We spend an inordinate amount of time in our football program on personal growth and development and leadership, and you can see the fruits of the labor, so to speak, starting to materialize right now.
You say the freshmen don't know, but can that also work to their advantage because they don't know they're supposed to pick up a 3rd and 10 at Georgia in late September?
Well, absolutely. You know, and again, it's going to be, you know, how fast can we jump that learning curve, and every day is going to be a new experience for them, every game, every practice. And again, it's going to be how we handle the clutter and distractions. How do we handle being a student athlete? You know, half of these individuals have never even gone through a football season, let alone full academic workload. Now, 14 of them, you know, have that experience, but it's nothing like going through a football season with the media, with preparing for an opponent, the standard, the expectations, having to go play in hostile environments. All that goes through, and again, that's why it's going to be important how we handle the natural adversities that a football season presents, that the older teams have been through it. They understand that, where the young individuals, they have no idea what's coming ahead of them.
The NCAA has proposed limiting physical contact in practices. Your thoughts on that moving forward, especially with a young team?
All right. Well, everything is about protecting our sport, and you know, with the new requirements, that doesn't affect us at all, because that's basically how, you know, we do our football program, especially this year in practices, because being as thin and as limited in the depth issues as we have, you know, so we're going to have Tuesdays are always a competitive practice for us in full pads, and then we taper down as you know, the week progresses.
Which with a lot of those, you know, young guys, you've got a lot of other big programs. One of those guys, there's a lot of excitement about a lot of them, obviously. Where's that fine line between kind of embracing those expectations and not putting too much on them, and realizing that even a talented kid is still kind of a kid?
Well, again, there's 17 to 22-year-old individuals, and you raise them like your kids, and we all know, you know, they grow up differently. You look at a lot of the great players that have performed in the SEC early, and were they better football players their 3rd or 4th year in this conference than their 1st year? Absolutely. And that's why we're going to have to rely on the older players that we do have to continue to nurture them and bring them along and hold them to a high standard, which they will. But, you know, that's part of the attractiveness that they had to come represent the University of Tennessee, is the great opportunity to play early in playing meaningful games.
What can you know about them mentally at this point? I mean, obviously they get thrown in the fire and then you really see, but what can you know kind of standing here today?
Well, you know, some of the things, you know, reports from Dave Lawson in the strength and conditioning area, you know, they've done a great job. We've done some off-season things with the new rule changes. But you never really know until about the 8th or 9th day of practice, when you're in full pads and you've gone through the grind of it now, and the mental conditioning, the mental toughness that takes place. You know, we always talk about everyone, the first day or two you put the pads on, but when those pads become sour and they got that little stench to it from the sweat of a long training camp, now you'll find out more about your football team. And there's a lot of unknowns right now, and we'll know more as training camp progresses, so stay tuned. We're not just add water. You know, we're going to have to continue to get better each and every day.
You've had the ability to recruit a lot of legacy guys in the last couple of years. How important has it been to show them that, you know, you're going to recruit them just as hard as you would a guy that their uncle or dad played at UT?
Well, our legacy players are critical. And you talk about individuals that have been brought up in Tennessee football. They understand what it is to play Alabama. They understand what it is to play Florida. They understand those rivalries. They understand Vol Nation. They understand the magnitude and relevance of Tennessee football. They understand who they're representing on a day-to-day basis and the great people of this state and Vol Nation. So the legacy players have been great for us, and obviously, you know, they've really helped us in the recruiting of other athletes as well.
Is the schedule tougher than last year's?
It's very challenging, to say the least, you know, and that's the other thing, and that's why the power of one is, you know, one practice at a time, one day at a time. We can never get ahead of ourselves. We just have to focus on the moment.
How much time have you spent looking at any film of your opponents, particularly Utah State? Well,
we spend an inordinate amount of time, you know, and it's developing our team, but it's also preparing, you know, for our opponents as well. So they're going to be a great challenge. They've played in the large venues. It's a program that's used to winning. Their players are used to winning, and it's a great program with a lot of tradition, and it's going to be a great challenge, and they definitely have our attention and our respect.
Was it hard to get your players to take them I'm not say seriously, but Utah State is not one of the traditional powers of college football, but people who follow the game know that they have a really good program.
Well, I think if you look at their recent success, it grabs your attention right away, and our players understand they're going to have to play their best football to win, and that's no difference if it's Utah State, if it's Arkansas State, if it's Chattanooga. Again, it's teaching them the standard, the expectations, but you have to bring your A game every single game day, and it's all about your preparation. The other thing about your football team being so young is the maturity in terms of rest and recovery. Do they understand how to take care of their bodies of a long grind of a football season? And those are all things that we have to do a great job as coaches. It starts with me, it starts with our older players, of constantly monitoring that which we do and which we will.
Butch, with Riley now out of the mix, has that changed anything with Justin and Josh and Nate and their kind of approach to
No. I've been excited about all three individuals. I think they've had a tremendous off season. They had a great spring ball season. They continue to get better and better and better. Justin was at the Manning camp, and Archie Manning texted me today, and what a great job he did, and just the overall maturation of that position. Look at all three individuals gained probably the greatest value you can gain last year in terms of they all have live game repetitions. You can't put a price tag on that, so I'm as encouraged and optimistic as that position as anyone.
Butch, what do you know about this league from the time you walked in here a year ago until right now? What have you learned about this league?
Unforgiving. It's basically what I found out very early and knew coming in here, but it's unforgiving. It's great coaches, great players, great administrators, great vision. If you stand still in terms of fundraising, if you stand still in terms of vision, in terms of facilities, development of your football program, recruiting, you're going to be passed up. It's the most competitive conference in the country. There's a reason why we've had great success, and you have to get out of bed each and every day, and you have to run every day. And you're working to beat your opponent, and it's taking care of your players also and investing in your program. And that's the great thing. You look at the direction, of our football program and our entire athletics led by Dave Hart, that vision. You look at the dormitory complex. You look at the Anderson Training Center. We're never standing still. You look at now the practice fields, which are greatly needed. That's our laboratory. That's where we teach football, and we've really been challenged in terms of field space and the overall quality of the fields. And now, to be able to add a couple more fields to the development of this football team will be critical as we continue to move forward as well.
You say this league is unforgiving, and it is, and that it would be hard to gain ground, and yet look what Auburn did last year. What do you take from that?
Well, I think anything's possible, and every program, has its different parameters, different nuances, different dynamics in terms of older players, younger players. But I think what Auburn does is it gives you an illustration that anything and everything is possible, just like Missouri. You look at Missouri and where they were picked last year at this time, and I think it's a great illustration that, in this great game of football and in this conference, anything is possible. You just have to put your head down and keep grinding and working every day.
Well, Butch, I think we made it almost 20 minutes without asking about Pig Howard. Anything new?
Yeah, Pig has done a great job. Nothing has changed in terms of his status. He still has a couple weeks to go, but he's done well academically. I've been very, very proud of Pig Howard. And again, that's part of the leadership development of our football team. I put it on our player staff. And Pig has changed his body makeup. He's in the best shape he's ever been in. Our players have embraced him. They've held him accountable, and Alden has done a great job to date.
I guess kind of thought from your end on if Pig's, as you said, kind of changing his body and doing the things he needs to do on and off the field, maybe what kind of player he could be if that's going to be the case, if he wasn't as focused as he needed to be before, what he could be now?
Well, you always have certain circumstances that in life, and they can change your life, and they can make you better or they can make you worse. And I think this is a circumstance that has made Alton better, but he still has the parameters and the expectations set forth by the player staff and myself of continuing to move forward. But Alden Howard is very, very, very talented, and he's put himself in a position right now to have a very good football season coming up.
Coach, you talked about your quarterback situation and losing Riley earlier. It gives those three quarterbacks more reps and more competition. That should make that position stronger, shouldn't it?
Well, that's exactly right. It's more repetitions, and we all know repetitions are the mother to all learning. So, again, when one individual kind of distances himself, and that's when we'll make him a starting quarterback. But every rep is going to be critical, whether it's an individual or in a team setting. But now, we'll be able to get more repetitions there. So I'm excited again about the quarterback position.